Welcome to In Defense of the Hays Code. I am your host, Ellis Womack. This is my co host and somewhat reluctant ally, Zach
Yeah,
Anderson.
yeah. I'm Zach. You mentioned comedy the last time we talked.
I,
Um, s- yeah, you did. Um, and you let me borrow a copy.
I
I
did.
don't know if the folks at home can see this. It happened one night.
Hmm.
Uh, before I give my thoughts, is that how long it took to film it? Is that what they're saying?
I'm pretty sure it took a few more nights than just one to film it.
Okay.
Generally, back
Yeah.
generally back then, since movies were cheaper and didn't rely so much on extensive and expensive special effects, movies could be filmed in like a month maybe. So you would have actors in, several films a year because they would just bounce from one production to another production to another production because they were just that quick to make.
Did that make the quality of films go down?
No, that, as you've seen with the Maltese Falcon, and I hope to show you through many more, I think the quality was better.
Well, I'll say this that you were right on the last episode. I mentioned that comedies now are kind of just like they go for the obvious cheap jokes. I don't know, somewhat. Uh, okay, they're going to do a crass joke. Yeah. Everybody laughs, but it's turned me off of comedies because they're just trashy. They're not very funny. However, it happened one night. I laughed out loud, and there was no crass humor. There were some innuendos and some alluding to things, um, but it was heavy on dialogue, and it was it was genuinely hilarious.
You'll have no arguments from me. The It Happened One Night is an early example of my favorite type of comedy, period, one of my favorite types of films called screwball comedies, which they're very dialogue based. A lot of them can be very, very fast paced, dialogue coming a mile a minute. And it's it's not a Napoleon Dynamite. It's not what I consider to be stupid humor. It's all very well. It's you know you have to be on your toes. The actors are actively bouncing off of each other, building and building and building.
Yeah, there's a wit to it, like
Mhm.
an intelligence to the humor. Whereas, yes, some movies, like Napoleon Dynamite, and people loved that movie when it came out, and
Mhm.
now nobody likes it. I still think it's hilarious, but there's no there. It's stupid. You said stupid comedy.
Yeah.
So, um, this is like so. The difference between like the Maltese Falcon to me and this movie was that the Maltese Falcon had heavy dialogue
Mhm.
and it was definitely all over the place. But the comedy, like their timing
Mhm.
was quick and like it was very fast paced, very uh yeah, surprisingly to me funny for a black and white film.
I mean, to me, black and white films are funnier, but I've seen arguments being made that one of the quintessential ingredients of the film noir is the screwball comedy, that one directly grew out of the other. Um, just in
Okay,
terms,
can you elaborate on that?
just in terms of like the fast-paced dialogue, the wit in a lot of the lines. Like in film noir, it might not be used for comedy, but there's a lot of like back and forth and a lot of snap to the dialogue that came from its predecessor in screwball comedy, but in this case used for sarcasm and sort of a building sense of tension, as opposed to being used to just make you laugh until your lungs hurt.
Okay. Okay. And so screwball comedy was first.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense because I did see some similarities.
Mhm.
And you know, I've known of Clark Gable. I mean, he's famous, old timey actor, but I did not know that he had comedic timing.
Before I saw it happened one night, because like I'd heard about it and I sat down to watch it, I considered Clark Gable a pretty boy. Oh, he's from, you know, um, Gone with the Wind. Oh, that he's just basically the 1930s version of like eye candy. That's all he's good for.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he turns in the performance he turned in, and it happened one night. And I'm sitting there going, I've misjudged you, sir. I've misjudged you so
Misjudged you. Yeah. Um. The there were several scenes in particular that just stick out. Um. I think one of them was there. I don't want to spoil anything
Mhm.
because I want people to watch this movie. Like this is a good comedy. So without hopefully without spoiling it, I do want to say that there's a scene where they are trying to get someplace and they are hitchhiking.
I know the scene of which you speak.
You know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And I think Clark Gable really shines there as uh, actor comedian.
Mhm.
Um, it very different from stand up and things like that. Um,
I think there's something that could be said too about Claudette Colbert in the scene. Sure, she's not being as overt as Gable, but like just her whole "wake me up when you get to 100," and then of course the tail end of the scene. Which, fun fact, that was almost not her leg.
Hold on, say that one more time.
The shot, the shot in question, that almost wasn't her leg in that shot. She didn't want to necessarily do that shot, didn't think, it thought it was beneath her. And so the studio, the director, Frank Capra, went, all right, fine, that's okay. We'll work with that. And he brought in somebody to essentially be a leg double for Miss Claudette Colbert.
A leg double.
Yes, for that one
Okay.
scene.
Okay.
But Claudette Colbert watched that scene back, decided she did not like that woman's leg, and did not want that woman's leg to be associated as her leg, and went ahead and shot the scene anyway.
What do you mean shot anyway? She did use her leg. It
Yes.
looked like it. Okay, so
In the
that
movie,
was
that is her leg.
so they hired a girl to be a fake leg, a leg double,
Mhm.
and then the actress Claudette, she was like, "Oh no, that's not my leg."
Yeah. I mean, you have to admit, it's like that poor woman getting her leg trashed off, but I mean, that's what she was sent in to do.
That's so crazy.
There's
Uh,
in that same scene, there's been speculation. I've heard it like pretty much confirmed, but I just like to say there's speculation in this case that the scene inspired, at least in part, Bugs Bunny.
the character,
Yes, because the whole scene, if you notice, he's shaving down that carrot and he's nibbling on it.
yes, the carrots, yes.
Yeah. So it's been speculated, and like I said, I think confirmed, but I like to say speculated just in case it comes back that I'm misheard.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's been speculated that that was a direct inspiration for Bugs Bunny.
It makes a lot of sense. With the hitchhiking comedy that takes place, and the carrot. Also, in a lot of those older Looney Tunes, they would have Clark Gable in it, and they'd have these huge ears.
Oh yeah.
And like I didn't even notice like his ears were big, but it's hilarious that Looney Tunes, they whenever they have famous people like show up, just their spoof on them,
right?
The exaggerated features.
There were actually a couple other interesting sort of either cameos or sort of small actors in the film.
Bring it.
The director, Frank Capra, who of course directed It's a Wonderful Life, and a handful of other really good films, he actually has a small role in the film.
Frank Capra?
Right, the director. When they're on the bus,
yes,
singing "The Man on the Flying Trapeze."
Yeah,
I think it's the man who does the second verse who stands up. No, I know this one. That's Capra.
The sailor?
Yes, that's Capra.
Yo.
So that's the guy who did the second or third verse. One of them was Capra.
Okay. That's wild.
Mm-hmm. And then the actor who eventually, the character who eventually does pick them up and drives them for a small piece, the one who also does the singing. You probably don't know him, but if you know your 60s/70s comedies, you know his son. The man
60s
in the car
/70s.
Like sitcoms.
Okay.
The man in the car was Alan Hale Sr.
Okay. Really?
And the more classic films that you watch that I get you into, the more you're going to trip over Alan Hale Sr. in the weirdest places. The man is just everywhere.
That's so wild. And he was the one that picked him up in the car.
Right. That was Alan Hale Sr. Like I said,
what a hilarious scene too.
It's going to get to the point where it's just like, oh, like this is odd. But with me having seen as many old films as I do,
yeah,
I really like seeing what character actors get cast in a role, like Alan Hale Sr.
Okay.
Because at points they become like bumping into old friends.
Interesting.
Like, yeah, sure, you've gone to see the movie for the big name, but then you run into Alan Hale Sr. for the 20th time, and it's just like, oh, hey, buddy, I didn't know you were here.
Yeah. In Andy Griffith and a bunch of those old shows, there's a guy, Burt Mustin.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with him?
Name doesn't ring a bell, but I'm sure I've seen him in something.
Dude, you have seen him in something. If you watch those old shows, Burt Mustin, I just know it because TV Land back in the day did like a tribute to Burt Mustin, and he like way back when he looked exactly the same, and then all the way like into the 80s, he was still playing the same character, and he looked exactly the same. So yeah, that's wild that Alan Hale Sr. is going to be popping up. Okay. All right.
For those of you at home, since we didn't exactly name who he was, Alan Hale Jr., his son, played Skipper in Gilligan's Island.
Yep.
And the two look identical enough that it's kind of scary.
I didn't even think about, obviously that was not even on my radar. But now that I think back, even the way he sang reminds me now. Let me put it that way. Yeah. It reminds me now of the way the skipper just his movements, his
Yeah.
characteristics. That's so funny. I love that so much.
Like I said, get ready to trip over Alan Hale Sr. in a bunch of movies.
Yeah,
Like he is in every.
excellent, excellent. Okay. I thought that so. Frank Capra
Mhm.
was on the bus.
Right.
Alan Hale Sr., Skipper's dad.
Mhm.
He drove them to the one of their destinations.
Yeah.
Again, we don't want to give spoilers because I want people to see this.
Oh yeah.
Same thing with the Maltese Falcon. I don't think I gave it enough credit in that last episode, but yeah, people need to watch these films.
Old films are important because old movies need to be treasured. You know, there's a reason why movies are classic and have stood the test of time. Where
Why? Why are older movies like that?
well, in my opinion, it's one of several things. It can come down to the actors, to the strength of the performances. It can come down to just the way old-timey movies make you feel something. Like they can affect you deep down. This is a hilarious movie, but there's a scene down the line in the movie. I'm not going to say what it was, but like the entire time I'm laughing, but I'm crying at the same time.
Okay.
Like the first time I saw it, I got super emotional. Um,
And it was close to the end of the movie.
yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. So viewers at home, you need to watch the movie so that you know what he's talking about. Can you tell us what character said it?
It was Peter Warren. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay,
Peter
all right.
Warren.
So Clark Gable,
Mhm.
and he says a line that's funny and and emotional.
Yeah, it's basically the linchpin, the payoff of the entire movie.
Okay.
Like I think if you want my general opinion, I think the movie itself builds up to and revolves around that line. That line is the most important one in the film because everything else sort of builds towards it.
Okay. Well, obviously, anybody watching is gonna want to know what line that is. We don't want to give a spoiler, so let me make a suggestion to you, Ellis, and on the spot, you can tell me what you think. Okay, folks, pause the podcast. Don't listen anymore. And or at the very end of this episode, how about this? How about at the very end of this episode, you'll say the line, spoiler alert at the end of this episode, but don't listen to the rest until you've seen the movie.
Yes.
Because people need to know which one it is because it's so important, and you've said it's the linchpin.
Yes.
So at the end of the episode, you can say
Assuming
the line.
we remember.
Yeah, hopefully we can keep it in our heads. If not, they'll let us know in the comments.
Oh, 100%. But talking about the dialogue in the comedy, so much of the film, and again, trying not to spoil anything, which is really difficult because I just want to talk.
With comedy, yeah, that's tough.
But so much of the film, I think why this one in particular is so special is the dialogue feels natural. Like not every line is a Marvel film or a Star Wars thing where it's like, this line is important. Bam. This line is important. man, look at how unnatural we're talking, just so we can get across this line is important. Man, like the movie can do something as simple as discuss the proper and improper ways of dunking a donut in coffee, or
Yeah, yeah.
the proper and improper ways of piggybacking versus a fireman's carry.
Okay. That was one of my scenes that I got a kick out of. So yeah, y'all watch the debate over the piggyback ride, and like you said, it's all natural. It's not like, oh, let's randomly talk about donuts. Like it all fits. Same thing with the piggyback ride. Like there's a reason they're discussing it. It matters.
And even lines that like come back later aren't like the camera doesn't hold on the character saying it. For instance, uh, talking about wanting to be a plumber's daughter, and then that yo-yos back in the most unexpected way, but it's so satisfying.
Yeah, yeah,
It feels like a payoff.
right. Yeah, there's a mention of wanting to be just a plumber's daughter, and then later there's a callback to that. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Another character actor I forgot to mention, Roscoe Carnes. You would know him in the film as Shapley. Shapley.
Mr. Shapley,
Yes.
the fella who sat down next to the
Yes.
leading lady.
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen him in a couple other films.
Yeah.
And the man is just hilarious. Again, it's another one of those. I'm happy to see you, my friend. Sit down and tell me what funny thing you're going to say today, please.
Okay.
And
yeah. And what's his real life name?
Roscoe Carnes with a K on the Carnes.
All right.
Roscoe.
So, do you remember? Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the scene of his exit of the movie. Did you? What was your thoughts on that scene? Not revealing what happened, but what did you think about that scene? The way he exited the film.
Well, this came out in 34. And I want to say in 31 or 32, Clark Gable played a small role in moderately sized role in the film Night Nurse, where he plays a sort of a rough character. So I almost feel like that was calling back to a lot of like maybe his early roles back before he became that leading man material. Plus, we mentioned Bugs Bunny earlier and how that scene. I think if you want to look at it, the character of Peter Warren is a very early inspiration for Bugs because that sort of that trickster. He gets out of situations through use of like his words and his brain. He thinks his way out of things.
Okay. Yeah. He's very quick. Very quick-witted, like Bugs Bunny. Never misses a beat. Can make up stories on the fly. And that's what brings a lot of the comedy to it, because it's unexpected. I have a very high standard for comedy.
As you should.
And so if I was going to give this a rating for comedy, I would give it an A. I think I gave the Maltese Falcon an A minus just because I was easily confused. But this is an A movie because of the timing of the jokes.
Oh yeah.
Like, so the writing, the jokes have to be funny themselves, and the situations have to be funny. Well, they got that, but if you don't have someone who can direct, I guess, going back and forth, or if it's going to be a wide shot, I'm talking like I know what I'm talking about with movies. I don't, but I'm just thinking comedic wise. And then most importantly, I would say it is the actors. Like those two, the way they, racquetball or volley their insults or whatever back and forth at each other, and just the quickness of the timing, it does feel reminiscent of Bugs, like who's just undefeated. Very rarely does Bugs Bunny come up against somebody who can outsmart him, and in this movie, very similarly, there was only one person who just got in his hair. Pun intended with Bugs Bunny there, got in his hair. I
don't know if we're talking about the same character, because I think you might be talking about her. I would argue that at the very end of the movie, the father outplayed
okay.
Clark Gable's character, because the father got what he was after the whole time.
This is true. This is true.
Which I don't remember who played the father, but that man could do more things with a look. Just a simple, like, are you kidding me look.
Yeah.
But
I think you're right. I think he was the one that Clark Gable, he met his match with him. He got outsmarted for his own good, which was pretty satisfying and pretty hilarious.
Again, just the scene at the end that we referenced before between the two of them. Which, just like I said, it builds up. The whole movie's been building up to it, but it's such an interesting scene because the father's the one that finally gets an honest answer out of Peter Warren, out of Clark Gable's character, after the entire film where he spent just sort of, talking. And the father finally gets an honest answer out of the man. And it is the most satisfying part of the film.
Okay, do we want to say spoiler alert? And you describe what happens?
Sure. Spoiler alert. Cover your ears, close your eyes, close your ears, cover your eyes, mute us, whatever it takes. I would say I'd sign language when we're done, but I don't know sign language. So
that would be necessary to do sign languages to know it.
But yeah, so again, spoilers, major spoilers. But at the very end of the film, when Peter Warren has come back to get the money that Ellie has, that he basically spent on her, the extra train ticket, the food, the clothes, all this stuff. And the father initially thinks that he's there for the reward. Only for Peter Warren, Clark Gable to go, no, what reward? I just want what I'm owed.
Yeah.
And you could see in the father's brain the moment, oh, okay, I can work with this.
Okay, yeah.
And then, he starts berating him, do you love my daughter? And, Clark Gable's being all evasive, no, anybody who'd love her, out of their mind.
Yeah, he actually never says no, he doesn't, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah, but
anyone who loved your daughter be out of them. And so on the third one, where it's like, do you love her? He goes, yes. Don't hold it against me. I'm a little screwy myself. And it's such, because like I said, the entire movie has been building to this point, because where it's finally out in the open, because they both realized it, and we've both seen them realize it. But this is the first time that he has spoken it out loud to anybody else.
Yeah.
And the father takes one look at him and goes, "Okay, now I know how I'm getting rid of King Wesley, and it's going to be fun."
Yeah. So that's the line, and it's both funny because he's like, don't hold it against me,
Yeah,
because I'm not too sane myself.
yeah.
But at the same time, it's romantic because he's like, yes, I do. Yeah, I thought that was a clever line, and I think you're right. I think that's what the movie. There's that dynamic, all kinds of shenanigans ensue during it. There's physical comedy, but mostly just quick dialogue, and it all ends up there. So you got me again with another black and white film.
I did, and again, all I have is movies and time.
Movies in time. This guy. Well, I'm looking forward to the next one, man. You mentioned it earlier, and I thought it was a kind of odd way of putting it, but like how they should be treasured. Well, it's because they are treasures. Like they're hidden treasures, like at the bottom of the ocean for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're not gonna watch that. Like me.
Yeah. A lot of people, like some of the people in this conversation.
Yeah, like one of us.
Yeah, a lot of people look at old black and white films and go, "Oh, that's just, why would I want to watch that? That just looks like something that would be on at like my grandmother's house." But then you sit down and you watch them, and old movies have stood the test of time for.
Hi, Cozy. My dog has entered the chat room.
But
Good pup.
Old films have stood the test of time for a reason, have, meant so much to so many different generations for a reason.
Yeah.
And, I think if more people paid attention to what old, better cinema was like and demanded that, we might have better movies nowadays.
So yeah, if the directors and the producers would look back and see what made it classic, what made a classic, like I love that we're talking about a comedy and a dog comes in and jumps up there. It's just perfect. Couldn't have planned that.
Well, then allow me to recommend my next movie to you, because it is a comedy.
Okay. Also to my pup here, who has settled in.
The Thin Man.
The Thin Man.
The Thin Man.
The Thin Man.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
I'll be sure to bring him a sandwich.
We have talked about mystery.
Yeah.
We have talked about comedy.
Yeah.
So what better place to go than a mystery comedy?
Okay. Well, and they just made. Is there just one of these?
There's 6. The actor and the actress starred together in 14 films, 6 of which were The Thin Man and its sequels.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that and watching those in the next month or so. We will we'll wrap it up here. And the man with the plan over there, Ellis, he's got, what is it now? You've got movies and time?
Yes, I have lots of movies and lots of time.
Lots of time. All right, well, that's going to work out. I've got some movies, the ones that you lend me,
Mhm.
and some time. So with that, we will continue next time.